Welcome everybody to the July healthcare user group. Nice to see everybody here. It's got a few introductions to do. So for those of you who don't know me and haven't been to a healthcare user group before, I'm Ella Wesdale. I'm the head of information at Pennine Care, which is a specialist mental health and learning disability trust on the east of Manchester. I've been using Tableau for over, I think, nearly 6 years now. I'm also a Tableau user group ambassador. I'm very proud to be that. And also run the Northwest Tableau user group as well. I've seen you there. I'm obsessed with Tableau, if you don't already know. I'm very passionate about the software and the difference it can make in healthcare and generally in life. Bit of a life-changing discovery, Tableau. So yes, and that's why I'm here running this group. So let me pass over to Chris to introduce himself.
Good morning. I'm Chris Dixon. I currently run the professional services part of BizTree UK, which is a Tableau partner. But I did, in my first career, work from the late 90s until 2009 in the NHS. I found Tableau in 2010 and actually was one of the first Tableau customers in the NHS back then in sort of 2010, 11. And yeah, just like Ella, I love data. I have a real passion for healthcare data, which is why, even though I'm no longer in the NHS, I'm still really passionate and involved in NHS use of data, especially in Tableau. So yeah, that's me. Unfortunately, Emma is unable to be with us today, so she's not going to be here to introduce herself. But Emma is also the third member of the UK Health Tug team, but hopefully she'll be back next time. All right, Ella.
Fingers crossed. Fab. So just before we kind of move on to the agenda and pass over to our first speaker, just kind of a reminder about how big the Tableau community is. So outside of user groups, there's loads and loads of initiatives. There's a huge community of data people that you can call on to get support from. If you need anything data or Tableau related, it's massive globally. It is, and they call it hashtag data farm. So if you Twitter and LinkedIn, then there's loads of people you can follow and get in touch with if you ever want support. And there's loads of free initiatives that you can get involved in as well. There's something called Makeover Monday, which is about redesigning a data visualization and a series of data. So every Sunday, some data gets released with an original data visualization, and then you get the opportunity to make it over and put it into your own style, and you can get feedback from various people in the community as well, which is a really great way of improving your data visualization skills and your Tableau skills. There's something called Workout Wednesday, which is similar to Makeover Monday in a sense, but actually it's far more technical. So they set technical challenges on Tableau, and again, you can get support for that, and you can find out how it's actually works. So it's really good to really practice your technical Tableau skills. There is things like Project Health is, again, data visualization skills and Tableau skills and feedback that you can get. Obviously really good for us because it's health related. And if you're into other stuff like sports, there's also sports initiatives and lots of other ones. So keep an eye out, I guess, on LinkedIn and Twitter. Check out all the Tableau forums and that. There's loads of stuff going on and loads of support out there. So you're really not on your own. There's thousands of people and lots of people willing to help. So that was just kind of a bit of an update about the community. So today, after I've done a little introduction, I'm going to hand over to Matthew, who's from Manchester CCG, and he's going to talk about how they've implemented Tableau and a front end at Manchester and the impact that's made for their organisation. So looking forward to that. Then we've got Sam Parsons from BizTree. Is it maybe your second week at BizTree, I think, I'm guessing. So Sam's going to talk about designing for engagement, so lots of tips for designing your dashboards. We've got our classic Kahoot quiz with an opportunity to win some swag, so that's exciting. Then I'm going to hand over to Michelle Murray, who's from Tableau, who's going to talk about some of the latest features of Tableau in the latest versions. We're then going to move into a bit of a Q&A, so I'm going to invite all the speakers to the panel. Chris is going to chair that, and we've got a couple of extra people. So we've got Graham from Southern Healthcare, I've got hopefully Tom Fletcher from NHS E&I, and Alex from Tableau. So we've got a good range of expertise on the panel. So please fire in all your questions and we'll get them answered during the Q&A. So anything you think of, Tableau, data visualization, technical questions, cultural questions, anything, and hopefully the panel will be able to help you. And then we'll close off hopefully about 11:50, so you can get on your way by 12. So great agenda in front of us. So let me stop sharing my screen and hand over to Matthew.
Hi everyone, I will start my screen sharing and hopefully you can see my presentation.
Yep, great.
So firstly, a bit of background about me. So my name's Matthew Conroy and I'm a Business Intelligence Manager at Manchester Health and Care Commissioning. So as a bit of a background, Manchester Health and Care Commissioning is a strategic partnership between Manchester CCG and Manchester City Council. It fell out the Greater Manchester Devolution project, and within MHCC, I'm responsible for primary care, performance and quality, and all things Tableau. So I joined MHCC nearly 5 years ago as a senior information analyst, and prior to joining MHCC, I was on the NHS Graduate Management Trainee Scheme as on the Health and Informatics Scheme, and started in the 2014 intake, which seems a scarily long time ago. And like most people on this call, I'm really passionate about actionable intelligence that improves patient care, and Tableau's really transformed our ability to do that. And in my spare time, I'm a passionate F1 and World Rally Championship fan. So I don't know if you can see behind me, but there's a picture of me and my dad when we went to Silverstone in 2012. And it's the British Grand Prix this weekend and Rally Estonia. So in between meetings, I'm kind of catching up with the latest updates and seeing what's happening. So first, a bit of background about our Tableau journey in Greater Manchester. So across GM, Tableau has been implemented as the data visualization product of choice. I think we probably started using Tableau about 3 to 4 years ago. And as a GM collective, it's transformed the way that we visualize and share data. And specifically within MHCC, all of our analysts have been trained on Tableau, and as a team, we've been blown away by how quickly the teams adopted it and really ran with it. I think when we've tried utilizing other software previously, it's had a lukewarm reception, but by and large, everybody's been blown away by Tableau. And we used to do a lot of stuff in Excel, and now hardly anything's done in Excel, and it's all done in Tableau, which is really, really positive. But what we found is that as we started developing Tableau content and uploading it to our Tableau server, feedback from a lot of our users was the native Tableau interface was difficult to navigate, and it was hard to find the content they needed really quickly and easily. So we'd often get emails from somebody saying, I've seen you've got that dashboard somewhere, but can you show me where it is? Or I really can't find it, I need the information now. And it to a certain extent hampered our ability to really engage with the users and share the content that we were really passionate about and that we created. And kind of separately to that, engagement with system partners highlighted the need for a single source of data and intelligence that was self-serve and easy to use, just like a website. So after we did a bit of scoping, we found the Curator product, which was previously known as Portal, which is developed by Interworks. And the key advantages for us was that it sits directly on top of the Tableau server, and it provides seamless integration with Tableau. So you sign in with your Tableau username and password and you get straight access to the site. And it's essentially a fully customizable website that links data, intelligence, images, documents, and videos into a single resource. So for the average user, they wouldn't necessarily know that it was Tableau. It's a website that combines information and all of our Tableau dashboards into a really cohesive package. And it allows us to put our corporate branding on it and make it look like it is just another Manchester Health and Care Commissioning product. It also provides the flexibility to show or hide content based on a user's permissions. So we can effectively configure the one site, but we've currently set it up so our GP practices get a different homepage and they get content that's specifically featured to them. And the main other key advantage is that the same content can exist in multiple places within the site. So there's some of the functionality that I'll show you allows you to put the same content and access it through different routes. So this is a screenshot of our portal page, but what I will do now is load up a demo just to kind of give you a flavor of what it looks like. So a lot of this has been coded through in HTML and Java, but what it gives you is this is our homepage, and what we've tried to do is structure the content to make it as easy to find it as possible. So we've grouped some of the content based on population or areas. So if it's a neighborhood, a ward, a GP practice, but also by theme. So like secondary care, mental health, long-term conditions, and primary care. We've also got a massive suite of all of our performance and quality improvement content, which kind of takes all of the national and local data around how our different providers and functions are performing against our statutory obligations. We've then got a lot of evidence, guidance and best practice, so kind of tying all of the information that's available up into a single resource. We then started to include some of our patient and public involvement, engagement and experience content onto the site. And then we've got an about section that just details how we've got to this place. So information about where we get our data that powers all of our Tableau content from, so our data warehouse as well. And then we've got some news and updates, so highlighting some of the new content that's available, some video guides that we've done, and then some contact information, and then some quick links. So what I'll do is I'll show you some of the content that we've developed around neighbourhoods. So what we've done within Manchester is grouped our neighbourhood, our electoral wards into 12 neighbourhoods spread across 3 different localities. So at the top, we've got some high level information about what the neighbourhoods are. So we've got them kind of grouped into North Manchester, Central, and then South. And then we've got some information around some of the profiles and a link to some other profiles that are available on the Manchester City Council website. But then what we've got down here, and this is the Tableau content. So what if you actually look at the URL, it's the keyword neighborhoods. So what you can do when you add a Tableau dashboard that sits on the server into the portal is tag it with a keyword, and you can tag multiple dashboards with the same keyword. So any dashboard that's been tagged in the back end as neighborhoods will appear on this page. So if one of our analysts was to create a new neighborhood dashboard, all we'd have to do is in the back end tag it with the keyword neighborhood, and without doing any more work, it would appear on this page. And then what we can do for some of the dashboards, for example, this one here, is provide a brief description of what the dashboard is. So if I was to then click on that and load it up, at this point, Tableau uses the trusted authentication in the back end to load the dashboard up within the portal site. And again, it doesn't require any additional usernames and passwords. The dashboard is there ready to go, and it includes some of the toolbars at the top. So if you wanted to download it as a PDF, you can do, and it provides you with all the same interactivity as what you'd expect. So I can zoom in and hover over the maps, and it is just like any other Tableau product that exists. So I can use some of the dashboard actions that we've got to click through and view parts of the profile as well. So the key example that we've got is some of the work that we've done around our performance and quality improvement. So the way that we've structured our content is that you can view it through different lenses. So we've got performance packs that focus on a specific area, exception reports that highlight areas where providers might not be meeting some of the targets, and then scorecards that give an overview. But then this information can also be cut by the different sectors. So we've got of all of our acute sectors, we've got our local care organisation and mental health. So you could have a performance pack that focuses on mental health, and because we can then use that keyword tagging, we can access that information through 2 different ways. So we could either access it starting from performance packs and then find the mental health performance pack, which is here, or then actually say start from mental health and then find the same performance pack. But because it's the same dashboard, I could make a change to the title, add a description, or actually refresh the entire content, and without making any of the changes, the same dashboard will update in both places. So to the user, it looks like the dashboard is in 2 places, but actually it's just the same piece of content that is available in more than one place. And again, the product is really flexible in terms of how we can use it and update it. So as I said previously, we've got a different homepage for our GP practices, and we're currently exploring about making these quick links flexible to whichever user group you're in. So that because it links directly back to the Tableau user groups that are available, you get all that information through, and we've really started to flex and make this specific to the individual user to make it really powerful in terms of the content that they specifically want to access. One of the other things that we found really useful is that the Curator product also contains a small MySQL database within the back end. So this is partly used for how you log all the dashboards and actually build the site, but it also provides a data manager or forms functionality. And what we've actually been able to do is utilize this to create some forms within the website where providers can submit information directly to us. The main area that we've used this for is by the performance and quality team for for small local providers. So these are providers who don't submit information to us through a kind of standard data flow, but we previously would have asked them to do this through Excel. But what this allows us to do is take the information from the portal MySQL database. We set up a routine that transfers it into our data warehouse, which then powers our Tableau dashboards. So within 15 to 20 minutes of a provider submitting their latest KPI information, we can then translate that into dashboards and really visualize that information. The other key area that we found this for is what we call our primary care sit rep. So at the start of the pandemic, we were asking our practices to submit information to us on a daily basis about how they were coping. Did they have enough PPE? How many staff were on sick? What were their demands and pressures? And we've actually done this through our Tableau portal. So again, we can really visualize that information quickly and saves people within our primary care team having to get 85 different spreadsheets from our 85 different practices and collate that information together. So this is a screenshot of one of the forms that we've built. So what we can also do is utilize some of the JavaScript and HTML. So as people enter in their KPIs, so for example, this KPIs around complaints that have been acknowledged within 3 days of receipt. So in this example, I said that we had 40 complaints that were acknowledged within 3 days, of which 50 were actually received. So the actual achievement was 80%. So we've actually, through the form, mandated that the provider has to give us a comment in terms of why they haven't completed that KPI. And this kind of validation of data comes through in real time. So it's really streamlined the ability for us to get that commentary, and for the providers it's useful in terms of highlighting to them where they may be above or below targets, and it gives us that commentary to understand why the reasons may be that they haven't achieved, and then we can work with them to support them for the future. And we were saying just before the user group started that the portal has been a really vital resource for us throughout the pandemic, and that drastic shift in terms of home working and new requirements for Tableau products and resources, as new data sets have been made available, and as we've received an increased frequency for some of our existing data sets. I think it's been really difficult to imagine our response to the pandemic without the portal. So this is a screenshot of our current page that we've got dedicated to the pandemic and all the resources that are available. And I remember at the start of March 2020, I created a small page that had, I think it was a link to the government website about the pandemic, thinking that this might be a resource that we want to build up. And over time, we've really gone crazy in terms of the amount of Tableau dashboards that we've got available, and the portal provides that kind of one cohesive landing page for all of the resources that we've got. And as we create new resources and make more things available, that users know that this is the one page to go to access all of that content. And again, this is one of the landing pages that we've created for our vaccination program, and it's accessible by our program management office, vaccination sites, and GP practices. And what we've done is created a suite of standard reports that cover information breaking down by electoral ward, ethnicity, primary care network, long-term conditions, and then what we've called our stakeholder slides. And what we can do is utilize Tableau parameters. So when somebody selects a drop-down box and selects a certain long-term condition or primary care network, for example, did it pre-filters the report when they load it up? So for the user, it's trying to make it as seamless as possible. And it might be that they might not see a certain drop-down on the Tableau dashboard, but by having the parameters through the drop-down boxes here, it enables them to get the report for what they need. So this is a screenshot of one of the ethnic reports that we did for patients who identify themselves as from the Bangladeshi population. So for the user, they can click on the drop-down box, load up the report, and then they can access the latest information. So this was from a couple of months ago in terms of looking at the coverage for different cohorts and then providing a comparison between their uptake and the citywide uptake, breaking down by gender and looking at trends and uptake over time, where uptake varied on a geographical level, and then breaking down specifically by electoral ward. And then one of the things that we've been able to do even further is that at the back end of last year, we got approval from NHS Digital as an organisation to undertake re-identification. So all of the data sets that we have within our data warehouse are at a patient level, but are anonymised. And the re-identification allows us to, through authorised users from GP practices, turn that information back into NHS number and names. So this is a Tableau dashboard that we've developed that's accessible through the portal that allows a user to really drill down and find, isolate a cohort for where they want to get the patient's name and NHS number, and then they can load that information up. So on the page for re-identification, we've embedded a YouTube video that describes the process in detail, includes a link to the access form where they can register for access, and then it provides them a seamless pathway into accessing the dashboard for identifying who those patients are. So I think one of the things that we're conscious of is that the portal only really adds value if people actually use it. And at the start of 2020, we had a really ambitious plan to engage with users through directorate meetings, lunch and learn sessions and team meetings. So really going out to users and highlighting what the tool is and how they can access it. But as you can imagine, we had to adjust this in line with home working. So one of the things that we've started to do is kind of webinars. So this is a screenshot from when we did a webinar about our vaccination resources that I've just described. And at its peak, it had over 100 users engaging with it across GP practices and within our organisation and the wider healthcare sector within Manchester. And the YouTube video of the recording has had an additional 100 views after it. So we found it was a really useful way of engaging with users. And the portal also includes analytics about who's accessing the site, so we could directly see that after we did this engagement session that there was a massive increase in the number of users accessing the content that was there. And we started to get a whole suite of different resources available, so demos specifically about the site as a whole, and then more specifically on certain pieces of content that are available. And then we've started to try and do email blasts out to registered users, so on a monthly basis, highlighting what new content is available with direct links to how they can access that specifically on the site as well. And we can see a direct correlation between when we send the emails out and then when we can see users accessing the site after. So we can embed it with Google Analytics, and I quite often have it up on my iPad, and we can directly see that the number of users steadily increases just after these emails goes out. And then one of the things that we've also introduced, again, using the data manager and forms function, is the ability for users to rate specific content. So after a user's been accessing the page for 10 minutes or more, that a pop-up will come up that asks them to rate this content using a 1 to 5 star rating, and then they can provide a reason for that rating as well. Or if they choose not to provide a rating, that they can close that pop-up down for that current time, or can actually close it and it won't ask them again to rate the content. And what we found is it's really useful for the analysts to get that feedback specifically about their content. So as an example, we had this cancer screening dashboard, and our cancer lead, using this functionality, asked if she could have a slightly different cut on the information. And it's also a really direct way of us understanding if there's a problem with the dashboard. So there's our 111 dashboard that we found that there was a broken link with a data source directly because somebody tried to access the 111 dashboard and giving us that feedback to say, I think there's a problem here. And off the back of that, we can then fix it and then directly contact that user saying, thank you for addressing the concern, we've now fixed it, and thank you for taking the time to let us know that. So I think for us that we're continually learning and making improvements to the product, and one of the things that we're looking at the moment is refining our permissions model as more and more people see the value in the site and want to access it, that we're looking at how we can open up as much content for people that's relevant to their role. And we're really trying to push and expand the use of re-identification with more of our dashboards to go through this cycle of having a dashboard that highlights an area for improvement, then giving users the ability to find actionable, identifiable data to have an intervention directly with patients. And then hopefully we'll be able to use the same dashboard to quantify the impact of that. I think it's really testament to the work that we've done that the Greater Manchester Integrated Care System has already purchased Curator licenses for the whole ICS. So one of the things that we're conscious of is that we've got this product and how that kind of integrates and forms as Manchester CCG becomes part of the Greater Manchester ICS. So then in summary, the portal has revolutionised how Tableau users access content across Manchester. The feedback that we've got from the site has been really positive, and it's led to a reduction in ad hoc requests as users can access the latest content at any time. So an example, this morning I had an email from one of our vaccination leads asking where our reports were for learning disability content. I signposted it to him on the portal, and now he knows that that's the place to access it. So he won't be continuously asking me for updates for that information because he knows exactly where it is, and whenever he accesses that content, he knows he's going to get the latest information. And then, like with anything, it's only the beginning of the journey, and knowing what we know now, I think we may have structured some elements of the site slightly differently, and we're looking at how we can kind of reform that for the future. But I think it's clear that there's no going back, and this is completely our direction of travel for using Tableau across our organisation in the future. So thank you for taking the time to listen, and I'll stop sharing my screen and open up for any questions.
Well, fab, thank you, Matthew. There is one question so far in the chat. It says, when someone creates a Tableau dashboard, do they publish it on the native Tableau server, then Curator picks up the dashboard, or is it a central process done by your team?
So at the moment, the individual user will push the content out onto the Tableau server, and then myself and one of our technical leads at the moment will then pull that onto the Curator product. Then what we're looking at is that as our use of the product expands, that isn't sustainable, and how we can get more of our team to do that pull through process. So when it's on the server, how they can pull it through onto the Curator product. I think it's a really fine balance, in that because we almost need some people to oversee that and understand the site structure. Otherwise, we could end up with a bit of a mess where people just put content wherever. So then we're looking at how we can expand it, but it's a really tight balance to make sure that we can make sure that the content goes into the right place, and that whole process about setting up permissions. And so we've currently got a workflow around that for every dashboard, when somebody pushes it out to the server, there's a kind of a checklist that includes where do you think it should go on the portal, who do you think the users are, just so we can make sure that process is ironed out. So we're not in a situation where a dashboard is on the portal, but the users who want to see it can't have access to it.
Great, thank you. We don't have any more questions in the chat, but has anybody else got any questions? They can ask them now. That's a 10-second pause, see if anyone appears. Oh, there is another one. Does Curator have a separate security or permission model in Tableau server?
So it directly lifts the permissions model from the Tableau server, which makes it really easy. So as long as we get our permissions model right on the Tableau server, then that translates straight over to Curator. So in the example that I showed with the keywords, if you had permissions for that dashboard, it would appear in the keywords page, but if you didn't, it wouldn't even show up. So it makes it really seamless, and you don't end up with something quite jarring where you can see a screenshot for a dashboard, and then when you try and click on the link, it comes up with an error, you don't have permissions for it, so it lists the permissions straight over. What it also allows you to do is that when you configure a specific web page, you can almost read those permissions and configure the web content. So as I described, one of the things that we're looking at now is dynamic home pages, where when you load it up, it'll read which permissions you've got and then show you kind of more curated content. So for our GP practices, it might be that we would have a home page that's more specific and shows them some of our more primary care commission schemes, where it might be that our secondary care colleagues would have the homepage where they're more content specific to them about secondary carers on the front page as well.
Cool, fab. I don't think we have any more questions, but that was brilliant, especially for us, because we've just implemented the portal a few months ago, so well behind you, but might be picking your brains about certain elements of it, or getting the team to anyway. So thank you very much, Matthew, that was great. If people do have any more questions, then we're going to have a Q&A panel, which Matthew's going to be sitting on anyway, so you can save them up if you come to you later. So let me hand now over to Sam. So let me welcome Sam. Sam is a Zen master, so we're very fortunate to have him here. And he's going to be talking about designing for engagement and trying to make sure your dashboards really can engage our data consumers. So I'll hand it nicely over to Sam.
Okay, thank you. I'll just share my screen a sec. And okay, can you see my presentation slides?
We can, yeah.
Wonderful. I'd just like to say I really enjoyed that, Matthew. Really enjoyed the presentation, and that would have been so useful in my old job, which was at Dyson, to have implemented something like that. That would have solved a few of our issues. So yeah, thank you for that. Also, thank you to Emma, Ella, and Chris for inviting me to talk to you today on this topic. This is my first time speaking to you all at the UK Healthcare Tug, so just take the opportunity to introduce myself a little bit. This is me. I'm Sam Parsons, and I'm a senior analytics consultant at Bistry UK. So Chris is actually my boss, and as Ella has already said, I am a Tableau Zen Master as of this year. So that's rather nice. I'm just gonna got something in the way on my screen. I'm moving that way. Right. Just a little bit more about me as a bit of context from my background. I've lost my control. So my career started, just trying to get my cursor off the screen. Right, my career started as a design engineering graduate. So I did design engineering as a degree, and I moved into finance as a business analyst for about 15 years. I then, after 15 years of working in Excel, I discovered Tableau. And very quickly of picking up Tableau, in a few months, I applied and joined Dyson as a lead data visualization developer. And I was able to make a successful transition into Tableau from utilizing my career milestones there, utilizing the design from my design degree and the logic that I learned doing engineering modules, and also just my experience with analysis. So that really helped me move forward very quickly with Tableau. And then earlier this year, I made the decision to leave Dyson after about 2.5 years and join Chris at Bistry UK, where Ella was correct. I'm in my second week of my my start at Bistry, so still just getting my feet under the table there. A little bit about my home life. I'm married with 3 children. All my children are primary school age. We have 2 St. Bedoodle puppies. So if you're unaware what a St. Bedoodle is, it's a St. Bernard cross poodle. They're about 8 months old at the moment, and they're a bit of a nightmare. And I'm an aspiring chef in my spare time, but if I'm completely honest, I'm only really any good at making cakes. And I'm also a rugby union super fan and a long-suffering Bath rugby supporter. So if people don't follow rugby union, Bath rugby used to be pretty good in the 80s and 90s, and they've been pretty rubbish since. So it's been hard work supporting them. But there is actually a link between those 2 tracks, and it's this here. So a while ago, I was very lucky to be contacted by one of the top professional sides in Australia, rugby union sides in Australia, by their head coach, asking me to help them do some work on the side on their player recruitment analysis. So that was a real sort of big moment for me to be able to link my 2 passions of data visualization and rugby union for an actual professional side. So that was rather nice. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about designing to engage and putting the data customers at the heart of everything we do. I will say now, this is not going to be a talk on design, on putting fluffy elements into your dashboards with rounded corners and drop shadows and things like that. It's more about strategies and real sort of tangible things you can do to try to get your customers to engage in your work. So why is that engagement important? It's pretty obvious, really, that without having good relationships with those customers, you're going to fail at what you do. And I like to think of this as engagement as a 2-way street. If you put the effort in and the time to engage with your customers, to show to them how important they are and that you're there to support them and you're working with them on a journey, then they will start engaging more with your work because they will become invested in it. So you engage with them, they'll engage with you. Further into this is without that customer buy-in, then our purpose becomes blunted, because if we're not engaging with them, then we run that risk of our work becoming unfocused. We will end up working on a different track to what they are assuming we're there for. So we have that potential of diverging from the brief. If we're not engaging with them during the design process or the development process, then we've failed to put our finger on the pulse. And that potentially causes a waste of our time and a waste of their time, because at the end of the development, you'll deliver a dashboard that potentially is not what they are asking for, and you don't want to have to rework anything and spend more time going back and trying to put something out there that they really need. So that engagement with them is key, putting that time in to talk to customers. And if you do waste their time, or if you do deliver substandard solutions, then your customers can obviously lose faith in your work, and they could potentially go elsewhere for looking for solutions to their reporting. And you don't want that to happen. So engagement is really, really key. So what sort of strategies can we employ to really sort of level up that engagement, really get them invested in the work that you're doing? These, I'm going to say, are not all-encompassing strategies. We don't have the time for that, but these are some of the things that I have done myself in my career that I think work really well. So what you can do, everyone has a different sort of relationship with their customers, and that relationship might change between customer and customer. This is what works for me, and I'm not saying that this is the one solution. What I like to do is I like to have regular development meetings. I like to try and keep engaging, keep having my finger on the pulse of what the customer needs. So this could be fortnightly, it could be monthly, it could be somewhere in between, depending on the customer. What I don't tend to do is I don't tend to like having a brief, a really descriptive brief to start with. Go away, don't talk to them for a few weeks or a month, and then deliver something and find that their needs have changed. What I find is if you have that that regular sort of communication channel open with your customer and talk to them regularly, then what you're doing is you're actually getting that customer invested in the product or the solution that you're building. So they become invested in that and they want to see that come to fruition and start using it. But also while you're talking to them, they'll start seeing that data and they might start having ideas on actually what they thought they needed wasn't actually what they really did want. And this starts to cut that development time down. You won't get to the end to think, deliver something, they go, actually that was good, but what I now really think I need is this. You can have those conversations as you go. Something else that really worked, and this is kind of, Matthew kind of hit on this as well, is seeking feedback on what you are delivering. So you might have delivered a whole host of reports for various customers in your business, but your work doesn't end there. The communication channel shouldn't end there. What I've done in the past in Dyson is 6 monthly or yearly. I've set up check-in sessions with about 20 of my key customers. So this, before the pandemic, were face-to-face, and there'll be like 20-minute session. And when the pandemic was on, it was virtually. But what this is it's a fact-finding mission. So where Matthew was saying that he had the little pop-up to rate dashboard or to let the developer team know if there's any issues, we were doing this face-to-face with an actual conversation with people, and I think it's really, really useful thing to do, because what you do is you're finding out where the pinch points are in for them with your reporting, where the gaps are with your reporting, but you're also showing them that you're taking the time to invest in them and engaging with them, and they will feel valued as a customer. But what we do with this also is I would encourage people, if they were to do this, is to try and get them to rate your reporting offering. So we were getting them to rate on a number of different topics, like the speed of the reports, missing the word here. Basically, the insights that were being delivered from the dashboard, were they getting what they needed? The look and feel of it, were they feeling that it was a professional product, that sort of stuff. And if by getting them to rate this and being honest with their ratings when you're having these conversations, it allows you to put that stake in the ground and start measuring your performance as a data team and understanding really what the customer is feeling about what you're delivering, because you could feel that your dashboards are wonderful, but they could tell you certainly something else. So the conversation tends to go along the lines of, so can you, we're going to go for a rating now between 1 to 10. Can you just tell me what your feelings are on the speed of the dashboard? Are you finding that they're particularly good, or are they slow to open up? slow to interact with. And the customer might say, well, actually, I've got a few dashboards there that I don't ever go into because they take over a minute to open up, and I just don't have the time to wait for that. Or they are the interaction, it takes every 20 seconds every time I click a filter, and I don't have the time for that. I don't want to go off and make a cup of tea and wait for a dashboard to open up. So I might rate your dashboards 4 out of 10. And you would take that away and go, thank you, that's really good critique. And you might take that away and work on that for 6, maybe 10 months later, and work on improving that performance. You go back to them a year later and have the same conversation and say, okay, so we spoke about performance of the dashboards last year. Can you have you seen any real improvements since our conversation? And that might be the first time they've actually actively thought about it. And they might come back, actually, yeah, there has been a big change, and my team are saying that those dashboards that we weren't using are starting to operate really well. And they might say, well, yeah, I'll rate you as a 7 out of 10 now. And you'd be like, yeah, okay. That's really useful, because we've actually worked really hard on that over the last year. We've gone back to our data sets, reworked our data sets. We've looked at the calculations we are using in our Tableau to write them in a more succinct way. And we've looked at the Tableau server usage and tried to alleviate some of the pressures on the server. So it's good to know that what we've been working on has worked. And what you're doing there is you're really sort of engaging the customer and showing them and putting that seed into their head that their feedback has been valuable, and you are working on solutions for them, and you are delivering on their feedback. So, and that has really worked for us in the past. Something else that you can do to maximize that engagement is be proactive. Look for those reporting gaps, go on fact-finding missions. So again, in Dyson, we had a team over in the UK in Malmesbury where the majority of our stakeholders were in the same room as us. So it was very easy to cover their reporting needs. We also had a team over in SEO, over in Southeast Asia, in Singapore and the Philippines, where we were delivering reports, but the communication channel was a lot less open, and we knew that there was probably more we could do for them. So we flew over to Singapore and we set up some meetings to find out what else could we deliver for these people. What were we missing? What parts of their data were we not utilizing within our Tableau, and where could we help them and speed up their processes? And that sort of fact-finding mission isn't just looking for work for ourselves, but it's engaging with those customers again, showing that they're valued. We've taken the time to do that. It's not them that have asked us to do that. And it's that engagement where I've said, if we engage with them, they'll engage with us. They'll start valuing the work that we're putting out there. So those are some of the strategies that you can do to engage with your customers. But what, from a reporting perspective, can you do? What can you do within your reports to sort of help that engagement? One of my big things that I like is branding. Branding, I think, is something that is very important from a data visualization perspective when you're working with a company. I was completely and utterly shocked when I joined Dyson 2.5 years ago to find that their Tableau server for the team that I was working in had over 200 workbooks, and all of those workbooks were developed by 8 different developers, and those developers didn't develop 2 dashboards in the same way. So you would have your dashboards all different dimensions. Some would be automatically sizing, some wouldn't. They would all be laid out differently, filters on the top, filters on the bottom. There'd be no particular cues on how to use those dashboards. Some would give a nod to branding by sticking a logo on there, but that logo would never appear in the same place twice. It was a sort of a haphazard affair with their visualization at that point. And what branding does, I feel, is it gives you a real professional feel to your work. And that professionalism breeds trust. And the trust is where you start getting that engagement. Trust is obviously something that you're going to get a lot more from accurate data, and that's a given. But from a design perspective, to build trust, try to make it like you try to make your dashboards like they should look for your company. So imagine that your dashboards would be seen externally. Try and make them to that level of finesse. And some examples of that, where it's obvious where the branding has been applied, is you can look to some of our like journalist dashboards. So this is obviously a Financial Times dashboard where they're using the cream sort of background. They're using, you can tell that they're using their fonts, and it's been finessed to a certain degree. You can say the same with The Economist. They're obviously dashboards and reports that come from these sites in the way that they're applying their brand. The same with the Wall Street Journal. And that's the stuff that we should be aspiring to as data visualization developers in our own internal dashboards. And what that does, if you spend the time doing that, is you can cut out that middleman. There are still people looking to go to your dashboards just to get the data out so they can rework it in Excel for their own presentation and reports. And you won't need to do that because your work will already be branded, and they'll have that trust in what you've done because it looks professional. And then you would not have to rework your own reports if they were requested by an exec audience. It'll be ready formatted. Another thing you could do with your reporting is templatization. Sounds like a very simple thing that you can do, but it's something that really sort of helps. And why it helps is because it gives that familiarity between reports, between dashboards. There's consistency there, and that consistency gives a bit of comfort, or the familiarity breeds that comfort. And that's where you get, again, more trust in what you're looking at. So if you're looking between dashboard and dashboard within your own Tableau server, and you can see that they line up and they can be placed on a screen next to each other, and it looks a lot more professional, and again, you're going to get more engagement from those reports. And templatization will also allow you to build speed to insight, the familiarity of going into those dashboards. You know how to use them, you know where the filters are, you know what the interactivity prompts are on the dashboards and what they mean. It's just ease of use, and if it's easy to use, then people will use them more. You won't get into that situation of building a new dashboard which is a completely different size and laid out a completely different way. There's not that hard investment from the customer to pick up a new report and understand how to use it. So that's where templatization really sort of helps. And sort of an example of different templates, recently Jeff Plattner has put on his Tableau public site a very nice workbook with a whole host of different templates within a single workbook. And so that's really what we're talking about there, is just a framework of laying out a consistent framework for all your reporting. And then if you want to take it on a step, that professionalism, then you would potentially look to build your own reporting standard, level up your design or level up your reporting. And what a reporting standard does is that gives you that design consistency and detail. And this is where we've talked about branding and we've talked about templates, but none of that gives you that real detail in the matching up between dashboard and dashboard, how it looks and how it feels, and get it on brand. So we saw on the the Financial Times sort of dashboard, you can obviously see that it's come from the Financial Times, and that's because they have that level of detail, consistency level of detail in how they're producing their reports, the fonts that they're using, the colors that they're using, the way they're applying their brand colors and the combinations of those brand colors. All of that would be set out in a reporting standard. And if you've written a reporting standard, then look to develop a core set of reports and go for the ones that are highly visible, those that are being used the most. Level those reports up in that standard, because if you do that, then you will hit a high number of your core customers in a really quick space of time. And the benefit of that is they will see that you are working to improve the reports that they are using. It's obviously changing, it's obviously improving, because you're making things look and feel the same between different dashboards, and they'll feel that you are really working for them. But ensure those standards go beyond just design. Look to include other things in your standards. So dashboard performance, set out some performance metrics that you need to hit with your dashboard. So that could be speed to load, speed to interact. Even look at your data engineering and how you're building your views and data tables that are underlying your dashboards. And examples of reporting standards that are out there, you've got the BBC have a standard template on Tableau Public, as do JLL. But this is an old version of theirs, but it's still there to look through and see the nth degree there. So JLL are here talking about the fonts that they're using and where you're using your fonts, whether they're capitalized or non-capitalized fonts. It's that sort of detail. Hold on a second, my dogs are just destroying a book. Sorry. Chewing away on some stuff in the corner there. So I was talking about JLL, but you can see the nth degree that JLL are going through there to set out the standards, so the consistency and the professionalism of their reports are consistent between them. And this is something that Matthew also hit on. I'm looking at the time there. Okay. Signposting. So we had real trouble with Dyson with or feedback with signposting of the reports. And this is a case of we were delivering reports and showing people how to use reports, but the questions were coming, well, these reports are fantastic, but I don't know what else is out there that I could use. I go to my favorites. I use the same 3 reports in my day job all the time, but I'm sure there's over 200 workbooks here on Tableau Server. I can see that, but I don't know what's relevant to me. So that's where you need to make sure the signposting of your reports is up to standard. So what does that mean? Do you need to rework your Tableau Server permissions? Do you need to change how, not permissions, projects, sorry. Do you need to change how your projects are set out? Is it that you need to be clearer in what the project descriptions are or the project names are? We went to a space where we were putting questions as the project titles rather than team names or areas of the team. So what is the question, what is the data question that the set of reports in this folder is answering? Do you need a custom portal like Matthew had presented? Was there a benefit of building your own site so that you can easily tag your reports like Matthew was doing with his keywords, so that the customers can find all the reports, and the reports don't just lie in one section. They might be tagged in a couple of ways, so they appear in different areas of your custom portal. Or do you go down the line of documentation, which is probably not my suggestion, because if your business is fast moving in your Tableau development, documentation can become out of date very, very quickly. So it's very tricky to keep on top of, unless you look to maybe leverage your Postgres system and build something dynamically that will create a document for you looking at the Tableau server and the tagging that's in there. But there's also signposting within your reports that needs to improve or make sure you're on top of. The icons that you use, icons are great. We all use them in our reporting. Are they intuitive? So it's not just icons that you put in with a KPI, it's more icons where there's some interactivity or more information. Are they clear enough? Are they clear enough that without any labeling, that your customer will understand what the icon is? Are your signals to interactivity clear enough? Those prompts to show you how you interact with that dashboard, is that clear and obvious what to do? Don't assume that your customers are going to find all the great features in your reports just by looking at it. Don't make that assumption. You could be spending a lot of time developing a template that has a lot of features in it, and assuming that your customers are getting such a fantastic array of extra information on your dashboard. Don't just assume though that they're finding that. a lot of people will just go to the dashboards and interact, find where the filters are and just interact with that and not look around any further. An example of that is a control panel that I built for Dyson in my old role, where we put in a lot of features. So on the left here is where the icons are not particularly intuitive to what they mean. So we found that feedback. We needed to add a little bit more signaling there by adding labeling into it to really describe what they are, just to make them a little bit more accessible. All of this signposting means that you're enabling your users to find your reports or find the features in your reports that will really help them. And therefore, if the signposting is good, then they will hopefully engage with more of your reports or your reports in a better way. So just to remember the importance of maintaining that connection to your customers and going back to this statement where engagement is a two-way street. Engage with customers, make them feel valued, and they will engage with our work. And that's it. Thank you for listening. So I was Sam Parsons, and my details are there below if you want to talk further on any of this. Thank you.
Thank you. That was brilliant. Really useful. Loads of really useful tips. We've just had a style guide made for our dashboards as we've kind of done a big improvement project, and it's just made, we haven't moved everything over, but made all our kind of new content and some of our old content really slick and really professional and really just interesting how you can make things look so much better just with a slightly different design. We've had like a graphic designer involved, but yeah, loads of great tips. I will be.
It's something that we've definitely found, certainly in my old role in Dyson, that it made a big impact with the engagement, and you can monitor that engagement on Tableau server with the number of views, the number of distinct users, that sort of thing. So yeah, I could talk about that for a long time, but I'll let you carry on.
No, thank you. We haven't got any questions in the chat. We've had a comment. Fantastic presentation. Any more questions before I move on to the Kahoot quiz? Unless you're all dying for the quiz. Cool. Well, if you think of anything, we've got the Q&A later, so don't worry, you won't miss out an opportunity to ask any questions. Thanks again, Sam. That's fab. Right, let me try and get the Kahoot quiz going. So if you've not played Kahoot before, it's best to kind of do it on your phone. So I'll give you instructions in a minute when I've got my screen all working. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so if you haven't played this before, if you go to kahoot.com or kahoot.it and then just enter this game pin and enter your name, and then you'll be able to join in. There are prizes at stake, so we will have 3 vouchers for the top 3 people for some Tableau swag that we can send to you. There's a few challenging questions, but a few easy ones, I think. So just go. Everybody's coming in thick and fast. I think we've got about 45 attendees, so give it another minute to get everybody in. Oh, cider woman's in the house. Interesting name. Any more? For any more? Come on in. Okay. I'm gonna hit start. You can still enter even once I've got going. Right, so if you've not played it before, you need to read the question on the screen, press the buttons on your phone so you don't get the questions on your phone. You just look at the screen and press the button. So it's fastest finger and right answer that gets you onto the leaderboard and winning if you haven't played before. So let's go with the first question and hope this works. Oh, I need to admit someone first. There we go. Just in time for the quiz. Okay. So you get 10 seconds to answer each question. So no messing about. Who is the new CEO of Tableau? So quick, hopefully easy one. And I'm going to confuse you now by showing you the picture of someone that isn't. It is Mark Nelson, who has just taken over from Adam Solipsky, I think that's the name, recently. So if you put Matt Hancock, luckily you didn't. Couldn't resist popping him in. So next question. Oh, Sam P's at the top of the leaderboard. Yay, already in there, wanting his swag. You shouldn't get any of these wrong if you're a Zen master. Which is not a Tableau certification option. So you've got to be quick, 10 seconds goes fast. It is Tableau Certified Analyst. That is not a qualification. All the other ones are. So well done to the 17 people. Does the leaderboard change as Sam P stays at the lead? And Guy is the highest climber. Well done, Guy. How many versions of Tableau have been released since 2019? You probably just need to hit a button. Not 3. I can tell you that. Hopefully the Tableau team know. There was 9. 3 people. Oh, Sam stayed in the lead. Come on, we need to knock him off. Which of these cannot be assigned as a geographic role? Got some techie questions coming in now for you. It is address. Oh, caught you out. Definitely. You can have airport. 5 people. Oh, he's still in the lead. Oh, and look, Zach is the highest answer streak of 3. Let's keep going. If you wanted to join 2 tables, which of the following would you need to use? So you've only got 2 options, 50-50. It is physical tables. Oh, Michelle's up. Good. Got a few new people, up 10 places. Well done, Abdi. And which chart type we use? Pan and zoom. It is a map. Oh, well done, everybody. 24 out of 24. Here's some catching up, Sam and Chris. What is the best chart type to visualize data over time? Can be done in different ways, but what's thought of as the best way? It is a line chart. Keep it simple. Ooh, slight change on leaderboard. Guys up there. What is the new predictive analytics function in Tableau called? It is Einstein Discovery. Ooh, a little change. Andrew's come up. What is a new feature for drag and drop level of detail expressions? What do they call it? It is quick. LOD is probably one that a lot of people would appreciate. Anything to make that easier. 19 people right. And then Lisa is the highest climber. Well done, Lisa. Come on up. What does the term ban stand for in the context of a dashboard design? All love a ban. It is big ass number, the Americans' names in that one. 10, got that right. And the leaderboard stays the same. Where is Tableau's headquarters? The official one is in Seattle, yes. Oh, changing the leaderboard. Well done. Come on up. Last two questions. See if we can knock Sam P off the top. Which of these functions does not have a dedicated button in a Tableau desktop toolbar? Thing at the top, obviously. Hope you appreciated the pictures that I've chosen for the questions. Create parameter, so it's not at the top, it's down there, but it's not there. I've got to change. Chris is in the lead. I'm sure all these people have got enough swag. Right, next question. This one you should be able to get right, all of you, without knowing Tableau at all. So will you be joining us at the next UK healthcare user group? Good one. No, not a chance. Fair enough. Cool, so let's see who won this. So in third place, Michelle, well done. Second place, we've got Sam P. And first place, is that you, Chris Dixon? You've won your own quiz.
I didn't know the question. They're your questions. But I will not take swag. So
I will not take the swag. I'll have to find out who's oh no. I think you can find out who's she says. Back to the podium. I thought you could find out who 4 and 5 was.
Was it under view full report that was on that menu?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Sorry, I won't join in next time.
It's all right. Just trying to beat a Zen master, I know. Oh, there we go. Runners up.
I just had to prove to myself why I was the boss, that's all.
Pete and AJ, you get to win some prize. Michelle, I presume you've got enough swag.
So all three of us have got enough swag.
So Pete and AJ, I'm going to split the prize between you. So you'll get $50 of Tableau gift vouchers. If you can drop me a message on here with your email address, I'll get Tableau to send you an email gift voucher. And then you can go to the Tableau swag shop. Right, let me stop sharing my screen and get back onto the agenda. Thank you for participating. Right, I think we're over to Michelle to present about all the new features of Tableau. So I'll hand it right over.
Hi, hello, it's Alex here. I'm gonna just jump in and introduce us, and I'm going to talk for a minute or two before I hand over to Michelle. So, can you see my screen there? Webpage.
We can, yes.
Tableau site. Great. So we're a little bit over time, so I'll try and go quite quickly. Firstly, just to introduce myself and Michelle. So we're both solution engineers with Tableau, and our team, we specifically support all of healthcare and public sector in the UK. So Ella and Chris and Emma asked us to give everyone an update today on what's new really in the Tableau platform. So so thanks very much for doing that. I'm going to try and go quite quickly. It's quiet right now. Luckily, I don't have any dogs, so I don't have to have the risk of what happened to you, Sam. I do have lots of books, but I think they'll behave themselves. I do have builders in the house though, and they sometimes get very noisy, so hopefully that won't happen. Any questions while myself and Michelle are talking, please do put them in the chat window, or we've got Q&A coming up as well. For me, I'm just going to introduce a couple of things and then I'm going to hand over to Michelle. When we talk about new features, I very often nowadays I'll show what's on the Tableau website. So current release recently was 2021.2. There's a great page here that shows what has come into the platform recently, and there's definitely a theme here. So ask data is one of the headline items in this release, explain data as well, and collections I'll talk about in a moment or two as well. But the theme here really is about how we are bringing AI, machine learning and other types of AI into the platform in different ways. And as you'll see in a moment, a lot of it actually, I didn't realize this before the user group started, but a lot of it is going to relate to the same sort of themes and topics that Matthew and Sam have been talking about. It's about personalizing the experience and just helping people to get to the right content more quickly. So I'll come back to that in a moment. On the topic of AI and machine learning, I put together a slide here, and I'm actually going to invite a bit of audience participation. So which of these statements would you say resonates with you, or you sort of identify with the most? If you could just, everyone on the call, just put a number in the chat very quickly. I'll be interested to know. When I was thinking about this, it reminded me of a meeting I went into once. It was actually before I worked at Tableau, but at the time it wasn't AI, it was big data. And I remember my colleague who I was with at the time, he literally said to me, in this meeting with the customer that we're going into, the more times you can say big data, the happier I will be. And I'm going to keep a tally. I'm going to count how many times you say big data, because that was the buzzword at the time. And you know, I think we go to conferences or whatever it was, and every stall would have the word big data somewhere. I think AI has taken that sort of status in recent times. It's very, very fashionable. So that's one of the sort of views you might have. I'm a little bit cynical about it, but at the same time, I also recognize that it's very, very powerful, and some of the things that are opened up through the application of AI can save people a lot of time and direct people towards insights and things very quickly. So I think it's very good the way that Tableau is incorporating these technologies into the platform, because I think we've kind of got the right philosophy about this. We're not trying to replace the person in the process. We're not trying to automate the analyst. We are trying to augment that person, and we're trying to accelerate the process that they're working on, and hopefully remove some of that time that is often spent exploring data or through trial and error, working through and trying to find where the insights are in a data set, for example, or directing people towards content that they may not know of, but actually they ought to be made aware of because everyone else in their team is looking at it, for example. Okay, I'll check the chat in a moment or two and see what people have thought about that. I'm going to very quickly show, there's a white paper which Tableau has produced. A couple of guys, Josh is a solution engineer based in Canada. I don't know David, but this is a really good summary of what Tableau has right across the platform in terms of where AI is being applied in different ways. Again, you see explain data and ask data highlighted here, and Michelle's going to talk about that in a moment or two. I'll share this white paper. I will check with you afterwards, Ella, and see what the best way of doing that is, maybe through the forum page for the user group. But I think it's a really good summary showing where Tableau is with all of these different things. And then I'm going to just quickly jump into, so this is a view of Tableau Server. What's interesting is, both Matthew and Sam have talked about how to overcome some of the challenges that the groups of users have when they are accessing content. And that's something that we recognize as well. Some organizations will go down this route of having a portal, which is the sort of landing page, if you like, for users to then drill into and find the relevant content for them. Many of the things, the sort of problems that portal approach will solve, we're also looking to solve in the standard interface as well. So for example, you know, having favorites in here, that's one way of doing it. Another option you've got is the ability to set a start page. Sorry about this thing in the way here. So you can set a start page for particular people. So you can say, well, I want this group of people to always land on a certain page. We mentioned earlier on the ability to tag content. You know, that's something that's available, and that can help people because those tags will then be prioritized in search. Recommendations, I mentioned this. Now, this is just my demo site, so I don't actually have any recommendations. There's no other users coming in here. But if I had a team of people who were also looking at content that was here, then I would see that recommended here. Another option, which is coming relatively recently, is where if a piece of content is shared with me, and I can share things through this mechanism as well, then it will show up here. So that's one way of alerting people to the fact that content exists that they might not know about. And then the one that I was going to spend more time on today, was because it's new, is this idea of a collection. So I particularly thought of this when Matthew was talking, because some of the ways that they are grouping content using tags might well be addressed by this approach. The best way to think of a collection is like a playlist. So if you've got songs in Spotify, for example, you know, one song from one album might exist in more than one playlist. That's absolutely fine. And one playlist might have songs from multiple albums. It's just according to the user's preference, they might group content together in particular ways. So this is, it's not dependent on the project or folder structure that you've got in place. And this doesn't bypass the security permissions, but it is a way of just grouping content into one area and helping people to find what's appropriate and right for them. So you'll see we are investing lots into the platform, and this challenge of how to create a personalized experience to help people find and use the right content that is intended for them. We are looking to address that in various different ways. And you know, I think we are making good progress with all of those questions. I'm going to hand over now to Michelle. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Michelle's going to show a couple of these items in more detail.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Let me get started. Can you see the screen? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to sort of focus in on this fairly brief demonstration is look at two of the areas that Alex discussed there now. Firstly, we'll take a look at explain data, what that is and what's new there in the latest release. And then we'll jump into ask data and see how that can help users jumpstart their analysis and get quickly to the point where they're asking the right questions, which are going to get them the answer behind the data that's being shown in their dashboard. So this dashboard I've got here is just looking at any attendance. And to start with, what my question is here is around peak arrival times for admissions. When is my peak time, basically, and what's happening there? So I'm just going to focus in on this visualization here. So what I'm looking at is by the days of the week and per hour of the day. I can see here in the darker blues that Monday, sort of late morning, looks like quite a busy time. And if I hover over here, in fact, what I notice is that 11 o'clock on a Monday seems to be a peak time for admissions into A&E. And that's something that I'd like to know a little bit more about. But I'm not quite sure where to start this investigation. Where do I go next? What is the question that I should be asking? Well, if I click on this, I can sorry. Okay, I'm just going to jump into edit mode first. Okay. So simply click on it. I have an option here called Explain Data. And what Explain Data does will give me some direction behind that mark and the drivers behind that particular mark as to why it's giving that specific value. So with one click, it pops up a new pane on the right-hand side. And this is a new way to display Explain Data in the most recent version. So what it means is that I can not only see the explanation behind that particular mark, but I can also, at the same time, continue to view my dashboard. So the first thing that I can see here is that 11 o'clock on Monday, let me just open it. There are a few values here that are drivers behind this particular point. The first thing is a single value. A single relevant value seems to be an outlier behind that, and it's pointing that out for me. So I can see that for this particular billing code, there are more marks for that particular billing code for Monday at 11 o'clock than there are across the rest of the data set. Might be something that I'm going to look at later, but let's see what else is relevant here. The relevant dimensions it's looking at, and one other thing to note here is it's looking at self-referral. Now, if you think about self-referral, this dimension isn't actually mentioned at all in the database because, or in the visualization, because Tableau is looking across the full data set behind this to find out the indicators as to why that value is showing as it is. So for Monday at 11, the distribution of this value is significantly higher for self-referral compared to self-referral values across the whole data set. And that's what this bar chart is signifying here. So I can see that self-referral is a potential driver behind this mark, and it's something that I may want to look into further as to who is self-referring, for example. Why might it be that that's an indicator for high admissions at that time of day? The other dimension here that is a factor is mode of arrival. So again, I can see that mode of arrival is a relevant factor because in this little bar chart, what it's showing me is in the blue, it's explaining the actual distribution of that particular mark, and the gray behind it is the distribution across the whole data set for that for the other mark. So mode of arrival and self-referral are key drivers behind this point. Now, if I wanted to, I can bring this straight into my analysis by clicking on the little arrow. It brings that in as a new work tab, and I can continue to work from there and work on it and continue to manipulate that. And also in the latest version of Tableau, this ability to see explain data, not to bring it into your web edit, but to view it, is available to viewers as well as explorers. So very quickly, with a couple of clicks, I've been able to sort of get an idea as to where to continue this investigation. And what I want to look at now in a little bit more detail is the distribution of these records by self-referral. What is going on with self-referral? So the next thing I'm going to do is jump into Ask Data. So straight from my dashboard, I can click straight into Ask Data to ask questions on natural language. And something I just want to point out also that's new in the most recent version is we now have an object that we can bring straight into our dashboard as a creator to incorporate the Ask Data within the dashboard itself. But if I click here and let's jump straight in, what this allows me to do is by simply typing in natural language, ask further questions in my data. So I don't need to understand anything about what's going on behind the scenes, or I don't need to go back to the IT or anybody else to ask my next question. So it makes it really easy for me to ask any question just by typing. So what I want to know is what the average referral rate is, what the average age is. So I just start to type. And you'll see as I'm typing, Tableau is helping me along here by showing me the fields there that are available and how it's going to pan out. So what is the average age for self-referral? Okay, and it's guiding me through here as the different options. Oh, okay, well, that's because I forgot to put the word age in. That's user error. Okay. Okay, if I could type, that would help. So now I've quickly got a visualization just by typing in English a question. And I can see that self-referral, interestingly, the average age is much lower than other types of referral in this data set. Now, maybe I'm interested in honing this question down a little bit further. So if I'm interested, let's say, in looking at only a particular postcode, I continue my question. And if I'm looking at what's in here, as I start to type in the postcode, now what Tableau is doing, or what Ask Data is doing, is not only looking at the individual dimensions, measures, or in other words, fields within that data set, but it's actually looking into the data in the data set and pulling out suggestions for me so that it helps me as an end user understand that data. So I'm just going to look at RH1. And there the numbers change because we're narrowing that question down. And let's say I want to look at it for weekdays. So I could just continue to type my question. And it automatically generates the best visualization for the question that I've asked. So very clearly right now we can quickly see that for self-referral, which is in the orange, the average age across the days of the week every day is much lower than it would be for other modes of referral. Currently it's displayed in a line chart, but I still have the option here to flip between different kinds of charts. So if I wanted to show it, let's say, as a tree map, I could do that, and it automatically generates a tooltip over that for me. Or bar chart, say, so I still have further options. Okay, and now I've created a brand new sheet. I can bring this into my dashboard if I like and continue with my analysis. So what we've had a look at there in a fairly quick little demonstration is explain data and how it's using AI-driven explanations to give me a jump start in my analysis to save me time so I can find out the key drivers behind a particular point. And then from there, I was able to jump straight into Ask Data, just type in English what my question is. It automatically will generate me a relevant chart, and I can continue with my analysis from there. I hope that's been useful for you, and that's the end of my demonstration. If you have any questions, we'll take them, and I'll hand over back to Ella right now. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you very much, Michelle and Alex. That was really useful. I don't know if we've got any messages, questions, sorry. No, that was really good. So we're going to jump into the Q&A anyway, so you can ask any questions you want. So I'm going to hand over to Chris, who's going to chair the Q&A, but you can either pop your any question in the chat, or you can stick your hand up and you can ask it yourself. So I'll hand over to Chris, and he can make sure everybody's here from the panel.
Thank you, Ella. So yeah, panel members, hopefully you're all ready. Just a quick check. Can everyone just go into the participants panel and see if you can raise your hand, just so I can, and I'll clear that, and then Ella, I'll ask you to clear that down once everyone's shown that we can use the raising hand option. Anyone? I can do it. Anyone else raise their hand? Okay. I'm not seeing anyone else. I know we've got some out at the top, right? Okay. So about half. Okay, that's clear. That's, Ella, would you mind clearing down all those? Because I'm not the host, I can't clear them all.
Yep. Don't do that. Press the wrong button then if I asked somebody to unmute, sorry.
All right, so does anyone have any questions for our panel, either on the presentations given today or on anything just in general around our experiences and knowledge in sort of the NHS healthcare data space? Feel free to either put your hand up, unmute, or type it into the chat. Okay. Well, I've got a new message. There we go. So, Kasim, I'm happy to read it out, or would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question? You're asking Ella, really.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, just wondering if a recording will be provided or not.
Ella?
Yes, it will be. It'll be recorded, and then in the next few days we will share that via our forum, and I'll send a link to all the attendees.
Thank you.
Thank you. If no one else has any questions, I can ask a couple. I think my main question first is to Matthew on your presentation around the portal. Just how long and what were the main challenges you faced in rolling out the portal over in your organisation?
So I think the initial rollout, so we did it kind of internally, was fairly quick. I think what we discovered fairly quickly is that because the branding that our comms and engagement team wanted to go down that kept with our corporate theme meant that we had to start getting a bit technical and coding some of it in HTML and JavaScript. So those buttons that you saw, like when we hovered over and they changed color, all of that was done in HTML and JavaScript. So I think you can stand it up fairly quickly with quite a minimal theme. But what we found is that as we wanted to customize it more and more, make it look more specific to a Manchester CCG product, that's where we found some of the time got taken up. But I think it's like anything, there was a bit of a steep learning curve at the start in terms of understanding how it worked, and then it's become fairly easy now. So I'm currently going through the process of, we have a scheme called the Primary Care Standards, which is a local incentive scheme with our GP practices, and I'm currently building all the pages that make that, and it's not a massive job. And then when we started the process, it was a lot longer, but now we've got into that process, it's fairly quick. But like anything, it's one of those things, and we're trying to explore now how to share that knowledge within the team, in that I'm fairly well versed in doing it, as is our database administrator, but we're conscious that we need to start sharing that knowledge within the team. But I think it's like anything, as the structure and how we do that evolved, there was no point in kind of documenting it, sharing it, because as quickly as you'd be documenting it, you'd be changing it anyway.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so I see, Ella, you've done a nice little intro of our panel. Thank you. But what I might do now is just say, those of us that haven't already spoken, so we've heard from Sam, Matthew, Ella, myself. Graham and Tom, would you like to introduce yourselves, maybe a little bit about your backgrounds and what you're able to share in this session? So Graham, can I ask you to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Much like Samuel, I've come from a finance background, so I was a management accountant. And when Simon Beaumont brought Tableau into Southern Health, probably as 5 or 6 years ago now, it kind of became sort of interesting to me. And then when I had an option to move across into the team, I took it. So I'm an analyst for the Specialist Services division. So that's including people who are ill to an extent that they've been sectioned in the Mental Health Act. So we've got a number of inpatient units where these people are being cared for, and we help there with both the statutory returns that we're doing as part of fulfilling our contract, as well as operational dashboards, and also freedom of information, which seemed to be a constant bane of our lives. So that's a brief overview of where we are there. In terms of, so much of what Samuel said resonates with me, because I think just what I'm trying to do in every dashboard that we're creating, and also looking back at some of the historic things, is have that consistent branding, which I just think it can't be emphasize how important that is. I think it's something that people don't realize is important, but without it, you do lose that kind of buy-in and that hook with the users. And I think that's probably all I've got to say now, unless anyone has any questions. I can talk you through where we are with we sort of also going down the portal idea as well, but it's very, very early stages. So nothing's been implemented yet. And it was quite interesting to hear Alex talking about things that might be coming through in the Tableau's offer, because I think I'd like to keep things as simple as possible. And if it can all be done, within Tableau, that would be good. So it'd be interesting to see how that develops.
Excellent. So you're right at the beginning of your journey to implementing a portal on top of Tableau Server. You saw some of you say you're still in the investigation stage, engaging with your end users to understand what their needs are for that portal. Yeah, we've as part of our objectives for this year, we've got 3 streams of work. So obviously the key bit is engaging with the key stakeholders, and we've got good relationships with them generally across the board, but just asking the questions about exactly what they want and how they want to see it, because it's quite a confusing offer at the moment, both in terms of the volume of reporting available and the way it's delivered to them. So there's that part. There's also, I suppose, which they're running at the same time, which is not necessarily that useful, but we're also sort of trying to think about the content that we could be made available through training. So there's a whole piece on that. And then there's a third part about the portal, which is what I'm involved in. So initially we were looking at using SharePoint. But I think from what Ella's been able to share with our heads of service, there is an interest. I think, I don't know exactly where we are, but I think there is an interest in using this product. So it's really interesting again to see what Matthew's and his team have done there, because that did look excellent, and I think that would drive engagement. And I also like the idea that you've got predetermined templates there, so you've got consistent branding and a consistent way to navigate the reporting. So that, I think that'd be a huge selling point. And again, it's something that'd be interesting. I don't know how quickly this is going to move given the workload that's coming through the trust at the moment, but it would be interesting to see how quickly Tableau can get a solution in there as well. All right. Thanks, Graham. Tom, would you like to introduce yourself and say hi to the group?
Hi guys. Just want to double check that you can both hear and see me, because my video keeps dropping off. I can't see anyone else moving, so I'm assuming that you can see me moving and talking. So I'm a senior analytics developer at NHS England and NHS Improvement. I've been using Tableau for about 4 years now, but I've been in the NHS for nearly 12 years, I think it is now. Time flies. The team that I'm in is a sort of national product development team, I suppose, and Tableau is our kind of bread and butter. So we primarily use Tableau to make dashboards and reports, but we do have other pieces of software that we use as well. Just want to echo what's been said from the first 2 presentations, both about the portal use and also about style guide and branding and that sort of thing, because we're going through that at the moment quite a lot. So it's really interesting to see that other people are coming across the same challenges and how they've solved them as well. So we've had a portal which is called the Insights platform, which we've used for a little while now for trusts to be able to log in, and CCGs, regions and so on, and both regional and national teams within NHS England and Improvement to sort of consume our Tableau dashboards. But making that easily navigable and understanding that dashboards are built by different teams, all have different stylings, they all have different names. It's quite hard. You might find a user that uses one dashboard quite a lot, but they don't know what's available. So all that signposting is really important. And we're starting to build a new portal, which I think it's currently being called NHS England Applications. That's the current working name for it. But it's actually going to link not just our Tableau products, but all our other analytical products together as well. So that's why we've gone down that sort of custom portal route, because it gives us the ability to share other analytical products, not just beyond Tableau. So that's currently in development at the moment. I think it's in user testing at the moment. But there's a long way to go for getting the consistency between our dashboards as well. So in parallel, we're trying to remake our style guides so that it fits with our new sort of portal platform. There's so many considerations that you have to have for that to make sure that everything sort of functions as a coherent ecosystem of products. So down to individual fonts, how big your fonts are for your headers, but also background color so that it fits within a UI. So and we've interestingly gone down the route of trying to embed all our Tableau dashboards within a sort of web wrapper, and we're trying to sort of lift the navigation from outside Tableau into the web layer so that it looks consistent between products. So whether you're using Tableau or using another piece of software or a custom built thing like the Model Hospital, if anyone's used that before, it still has the same look and feel in terms of navigation. You don't necessarily know that you're on a Tableau product if you're not an experienced sort of developer or user. So we're going through a lot of the similar pain points a lot of other people do, and I guess my word of warning would be that if you do embark on trying to build a style guide, it can be just as difficult as documentation in terms of updating it, because I think we've reached a certain point where we've probably got 4 or 5 different style guides, and you want to have one to unite them all, and you end up reworking it if you do change your style. So it's both a blessing and a curse in a sense that it can create lots of extra work down the line, but it certainly really helps in tying your products together and making everything consistent, and with signposting as well. And that's probably all I have to say on it. If anyone's got any questions about anything, we've done a lot of work on, as of everybody else, over the last year on COVID, but we've produced lots of national COVID dashboards as well for lots of trusts and CCGs and systems to log in and view. We're producing like daily sit rep numbers on beds and all that sort of stuff, which has been going since April last year actually, so still maintaining those. So if anyone has any questions about any of that as well, just let me know.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So before I carry on, does anyone in the audience have any questions for any of our panelists or people who've spoken today? Okay.
A very quiet audience today.
Very quiet audience today.
Can't believe we've got NHS England in the room.
I've got a question probably to everybody, Chris, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
There's something we lack here, and it's something that I'm not used to just generally in my working life, is a lack of control environment, in that I could produce something now and publish it. It might not meet the style guide, it might not be power allowed to the correct way of reporting, but that is there to be now I can publish that, and that's there to be seen by everybody. I just wondered what kind of, if any of you guys have got a control environment where it goes through a sort of peer review or moderation before it gets published.
There's something that we've tried to do. I think it's really challenging because it's difficult for it to not come across as stifling creativity. So what we've tried to do is that when, as part of dashboard development, that we have a checklist that that comes through in terms of like the certain elements that your dashboard should or shouldn't include. But I think that the fact that we've so heavily leaned into portal kind of gives us that a little bit of that safety net, in that before a dashboard can actually be seen by users through the portal site, it requires somebody to actually link it onto there. So a user can still publish it onto the server. And what we tend to do is that use the publishing to a server as kind of a test for how the dashboard runs on the server. And then when we're happy with it, then we push it out onto the portal. I think, having said that, the rate in which we've been developing content over the last 15-16 months meant that, for better or worse, we've kind of forgone some of the formalities around, if it doesn't exactly meet all the elements of the style guide, or doesn't meet all the elements of the checklist, then for the sake of just getting it out there so people can start using it, we may have forgone some of that. So I think there is some work for us to do now in terms of looking over all the dashboards that we created, as things hopefully start to slow down a little bit in terms of taking stock and learning about what works and doesn't work. I think a style guide is really useful, but the rate in which we're learning about Tableau and the processes and the functionality of the software is developing means that we're almost in a bit of a chicken and egg scenario, in that we'll develop a style guide, but then if something new in Tableau comes out, which means we want to revamp that, then we're almost thinking about how can we have like a continual review process for all of our dashboards. And that what we kind of maybe landed on internally, that 6 months is quite a nice frequency, where we might say that we do a stock take of a dashboard every 6 months or so and saying, does it still meet the criteria? Does it still meet our new and improved style guide? Does it take account of all the latest features of Tableau? Because I think what's very clear is that some of the products we created right at the start of our journey, visually as well as in terms of features, look light years behind what we're doing right now. But that's not anybody's fault. It's just the nature and the pace and how things are developing.
I think, Graham, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done in some of our customers, which is there is this thing when you first go with Tableau, that you could just say let's let everyone be imaginative and let's let everyone publish to the server, and it becomes a bit of a wild west of different types of styles, different types of analysis, and you need to, at some point, when you're going to make it a corporate identity, a corporate tool, you have to start reining that in. Now, in some organizations, we've done that right at the beginning and said, actually, we're going to have a development environment and a production environment, and the development and test environment is where you can publish things to, and it can't make it to the production environment until it's been through this checklist against either a style guide or an accuracy check on how the analysis has been done. I would absolutely recommend that there is a sort of a break between everyone being able to do everything and what then is then publicly and corporate shared. The problem then is how do you do that check? Now, we've done the work in the past where it becomes almost like a promotion body. There's a team of people whose job it is to open the workbooks, check it against the checklist, and then publish it from one server to the other. And that's really sort of very intensive in terms of the amount of work and effort and the amount of time it will take to promote content from one place to another. The other option is you go down the XML route of, well, Tableau workbooks are all just XML, and you write code to look for, are there any colors encoded in that XML that shouldn't be in that XML? Are we choosing the correct sort of parameters and filters in the right way, in the right places? Because you can, in the XML, you can see the X and Y positions of everything. It's again, that's a huge amount of work to write that up front, but it can then automate the process. Now, once upon a time, there was a lovely tool called Power Tools from Interworks, which used to allow you to compare workbooks side by side. However, I'm pretty sure Tableau bought that, and it's part of the Tableau ecosystem now, but I don't think they make available that specific bit of the dashboard comparison tool. But yeah, there's two options for me. Is the intensive, there's a person or a group of people who are the promotion body, or the upfront intensive of writing the code to be able to then apply some checks against any XML before it can be promoted. I've worked in organizations that have done both, and the code bit ends up being updated all the time because as Tableau develops, the XML of the file changes and you have to update your code. But then exactly what Matthew said, your style guide is also going to be constantly updating. So, or it should be evolving at least. So you could end up in a situation where you have to keep rewriting the code or rewriting your style guide, and the people have to then update their skills as part of the promotion body. So yeah, I think my answer is yes, I think there absolutely should be, but it's not an easy, quick thing to tackle. Does anyone else on the committee have or panel have a?
I'm going to jump in, Chris, as well, just give a quick Tableau perspective. And I think the intention is that through the use of project folders, you're going to allow people to create content and publish it into, I don't know, a sort of sandbox environment, which only them and their immediate team can see. And that allows them to collaborate and share. And it should, Matthew's point I thought was really good. You don't want to stifle that creativity. You want to allow people to create things, and especially in those early days when people are learning. And once it's there, then it opens up the possibility of having a kind of QA or approval process where maybe the people who, for want of a better word, kind of police the application of the style guide can then check that the right things have been applied and the right tick boxes. And one important point is style guides, I think, are excellent. And I totally agree about the importance of having that sort of corporate standard. The other kinds of checks that people would often make in that situation are to do with performance. Have people put in very inefficient calculations and things like that into their workbook? And also, are they actually getting the correct numbers to come through? I mean, it's very easy to just make a mistake with the aggregation or something like that somewhere in your calculations, and without realizing it, you're putting out numbers that are inaccurate or misleading. So there's a number of types of check that ought to be put in place before something's taken out of that sort of sandbox environment and published more widely across an organization. But for us, the intention is that all of that happens in your production environment of Tableau Server, and use the project folders and the permissions that you apply around those to just support that QA process.
Alex?
Just wanted to add on to that as well.
Just, your hand up, so, do you have something to add to this?
Are you able to hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you. We could. Now
sorry, I think I'm slightly delayed. Yeah, just to add to that, because we kind of take a little bit of a leaf out of the book of software development practices to, before we release any of our, what we're calling analytical projects, that are just dashboards in this context. We go through a proper process of development, QA. So we have a testing team that test our both our dashboards from a sort of functional point of view, clicking on stuff, does it do what it's expected, but then also checking the data side as well and making sure that the numbers match, so doing those checks. Then we have user acceptance testing, and then we also released to production. So we actually have 4 different Tableau server environments. We've got 4 different data environments as well. So we go through all those stages, and I don't have permission to release directly to our production server. We have an operations team that do it for us. But I can deploy our Tableau workbooks through an automated DevOps process. So we use Azure DevOps with a deployment pipeline to publish our workbooks through the different environments. And our testing team is starting to work on automated cross-environment testing at the moment. What I mean by that is they're using a tool that's called Kinesis, which allows you to put in 2 different Tableau server environments where you've got 2 copies of different workbooks. One's the testing version, one's the production version, and it can do automated testing to see whether the charts have got the same numbers on, whether the filters have the right number of entries in them, and so on. So that's still early stages, but we're working on doing some more automated stuff. What it can't do necessarily is do that sort of style guide check, because that's always going to have a human to look at it, I think. You can probably do it to some extent to say whether the elements are in the right place, but really you need someone to cast an eye over it. So I think we've got the benefit of having enough people and enough teams to be able to do that for us, really, and having that sort of split where we have a separate QA team doing all those checks for us really helps. But we have a very sort of strict process, making sure that if we've got a live dashboard with thousands of users, we don't just publish anything directly to production. We have people testing it first, and then only when it's ready to release them, we get operations team to do that for us. So it's really useful having those, and we have the luxury of extra people supporting on there. But it's really important that you don't just have anybody just being able to overwrite a live dashboard, because it's not just the style guide that it might not meet. You might make a very small change in a calculation, and it can completely break your dashboard that's already being relied upon by potentially thousands of people. So that's the process that we follow. I can share information on how it's all set up as well, if anybody wants to go down that road. And there's a lot of information there as well. So a bit of a whistle stop tour. But if anyone wants to get in touch, please do.
Thank you, Tom. And for everyone to know, I've seen Tom's put his email address in the chat. So if anyone wants to email Tom, it's right there. So we do have a question, Tom, while you're speaking, from Sam Palmer. Do NHS E&I have any suggested or example Tableau templates? I'm assuming for sharing being the intention there.
We're working on one at the moment for our new portal. It doesn't contain anything that's not shareable, so I can't see why that wouldn't be. I can't see why that would be a problem. It's still in its early stages, and it kind of is built for our portal. So like the titles are gone, for example, because the titles are moved into the web layer. So it might not be hugely useful, and it's probably for our. But we do have a working style guide that has sort of 60, 70 pages of information on, which has lots of documentation on good practice for visualizations and that sort of thing. That's probably something that's worth sharing, but that's what we're working on updating at the moment. So short answer is yes, but with some caveat.
Thanks, Tom. I'm going to expand that actually and say, Matthew, Ella, Graham, do any of your organisations have style guides that you are able to share publicly or with the wider group?
I'm more than happy to check. We've got some blank templates. I'd be more than happy. Well, I'd need to just double check, but I don't see any issue with sharing them because they're just templates. So yeah, I think that would be. We found with one of our. It's interesting how these things can unravel because one of our analysts built a suite of templates for corporate reporting, clinical reporting, etc. And there was an issue with the way the containers worked. So what we then had is 5 analysts build and set their own separate ones and saving them locally. So that was quite an interesting thing. It was just cutting out that you just need to talk to each other, don't you, about things like that. But yeah, I don't see that would be an issue to share.
Thanks, Graham. Matthew.
It's probably the same. I think that we've probably not gone as formal as having a kind of standardized Tableau workbook that you use at the start. We've just got some kind of screenshots around what colours and fonts you should use for certain titles and certain dashboard elements. But I'm sure we can look at sharing some form of that.
All right. Thank you. And Ella, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have got a new one as well. I think I mentioned earlier, so don't see why we can't share it.
Excellent. Right, I'd like to get
of time. I've got 1 minute.
I got Delicia's got a hand up. So Delicia, do you have one quick question before we wind up?
It's a very controversial question, unfortunately. How many people in here actually have a perpetual license for Tableau? And what are you doing to get onto the subscription model? Because I can't afford it here at Oxford. Nobody's going to answer this, are they?
I think I should absolutely mute myself at this point, Delicia.
Yes. So nobody has a perpetual license. Everyone's on subscription.
I think we might be looking to do that, but I'm not sure. That was more what I heard through the grapevine rather than.
No, I think NHS England have a server called subscription, so you guys are all good. It's just the acute people that are affected. I'll drop my email in here if anyone is on a perpetual license. Can you just let me?
The perpetual license model, it would be for people that bought their licenses before 2017, 2016, Alex?
Yeah, we're on that model. There's no plans necessarily to change at the moment, but I assume at some point we need to think about it.
Yeah, because the lift is huge and, the NHS is pretty cash strapped. So going from, 100K to 300 is not justifiable at the moment. So I'd like to, I'll get in touch with you, Ella. And thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, I see
veteran attending.
Does Tableau have a view on this?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things to say on that. I mean, firstly, I think, Delicia, I know you're in contact with your account executive on that, and they're the best person really to give you all the options there. It is definitely a challenge for organizations that bought a long way back when the licensing model was different. And we are trying to modernize and get everyone onto the standard that we offer now. And really it's a case-by-case conversation.
Yeah, I'm in touch with Ian Hartley. He helps me out once in a while, so that's all good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Delicia. I'd like to thank all of our panel members and all the people who've talked today. It's been a really great session. Ella, before we end the call, do you have any wrap up that you want to do?
No, I was just going to say thank you to everybody as well who was involved and everybody who attended. It's been a really good talk. So many ideas and stuff floating around in my head now. It's fab to get everyone interacting and participate, so it's great. So just a final word from me in terms of if you fancy speaking at the next healthcare user group, we're always looking for people to present and share what they're getting involved in and all their ideas and stuff. It's really great and it's a great forum to kind of get involved in. It does, if you speak, it always helps to boost your network and profile and stuff, so it's always good because then people will reach out and get in touch and share more ideas. So please drop us me or Chris or Emma, and at a message through any means. And volunteer speak, we'll probably have one in the next few months, so watch the space, and thank you.
All right, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful Friday.
Thank you, will do.
Thank you very much.